All right, based on popular demand, we're going to do a comparison of a 100 series compared to a 200 series. So subscribe if you're into Landcruisers, Lexus, just off-roading. I've got lots of videos with FJ40, 60, the 100, the 200, LX. I do comparisons. So this is the first time I'm doing a 100 compared to a 200, which I can't believe I haven't done that video yet, but here we go. Let's compare the two. All right, so here's the Landcruiser comparison of a 100 series versus a 200 series based by popular demand. And like I said earlier, I do lots of comparisons, so please like and better yet subscribe if you're into Landcruisers, off-roading, mountain biking. That's kind of all I post, and that would be appreciated. Plus, you know what, if you like, it helps push it up in the YouTube channel results, search results, so it can benefit other people as well. And comment. I answer all comments. I will get back to you within 24 hours. So ask me questions, tips. If you're looking for a Landcruiser, we'd be more than happy to help. So let's just go over some quick numbers. If you're in the market and you're looking at a 100 or a 200, guess what? You have a little bit more than twice as many 100s that were produced than the 200. So there are more out there. In fact, on the 100, let's say in the mid 80s, like 85,000 were produced, with almost a little over half of those from 98 to 2001. So let's consider, you know, a good portion of those, maybe if they were in the rust belt, they rusted out, or some get accident over the years. And then just under 40,000 coming from 2008, which this is a 2008 model, all the way up to 2021. I think I'm kind of including 2022 models. So there are twice as many 100s. So guess what? That would indicatively mean there'll be more on the market. Plus, you know, 2016 through 21, some are leases, some aren't on the market yet, being returned from leases. So definitely you'll find more. But believe it or not, a 2008 Landcruiser is low 20s, and so is a 2006, 2007, the last 2 years of the 100 series. So you kind of are looking at the same price range for these two right now in current market conditions. And in all fairness, I'm just going to point a couple things out. The 200 series here does have what I call the poor man's lift, which is the front has a spacer on it, which lifts it up, and does have aftermarket wheels and a painted grille. So a little bit of aftermarket stuff was done to this. And oh yeah, for people that don't know, the Heritage got the FJ40 badging on it, so I threw on some badging for fun. So this is a Heritage want to be, but guess what, I paid in the mid 20s. I didn't have to pay 95,000 bucks. And then this 100 series, you see the fender, not really fender flares, but these little accents. That's a Florida thing. So that's because this truck is a Southeast Landcruiser that I actually bought and shipped out here to California. I'm not a big fan of that, maybe because I'm not used to seeing them on the West Coast here, but this is something that was added. I think there's two major dealers for Landcruisers in the US. One was in the Southeast, and they equipped virtually all their Landcruisers with that fender package. So some people might like it. It kind of continues that molding line going across, but not a big fan. And you know what? If you do buy one of these, you're going to notice this line right here is always chalky. It doesn't look like that here, not because that's painted, but that has vinyl wrap. So that's charcoal metallic 3M 1080p. So like I said, subscribe. I've got a video on how to do that, and a video on how to keep these lights polished, looking good. If you have an older Landcruiser, those are glass. If you have a 98, 99, 2001, and then they switched to plastic. So 100 and a 200. So let's start with the 100. And both are white. This white paint, and actually on both of them, is one coat process. So unlike getting a clear coat put on it, it's the white and the clears mixed. So there's pros and cons to that. The con is it'll oxidize, you know, within 2-3 years easily if you're not taking care of it. But the pro is you can always revitalize it and bring it back to life. You use compound and a good wool pad and go to town, and that paint will always come back and look amazing. In fact, if you think about Landcruisers, the 60 series, which was prone to rust or prone to along the roof rail or prone to clear coat damage in their gray and their sand color, the white, not at all, because guess what? There's no clear coat to peel. It was one coat process as well. So that's why white 60 series and 62s always, and even 80s, can be buffed, compounded back to their glory days. So obviously they got a little bit bigger with the 200, but I always felt, especially anybody who's looking at 4Runners, there's so much more space here between driver and passenger in a Landcruiser compared to a 4Runner, way more. And sometimes you would get, you know, the fake wood pieces on here, dresses it up a bit. And both models have obviously the second row with that fold down, so you can either have 2 people or 3, and then the third row in this truck easily removed. In the other one, you got to start getting out some tools if you want to remove the third row in the 200 series. But plenty of space in both with the V8, which we will be checking later. Pop the hood while we're here. Just to show you what I mean in the back. And in 06 and 07, they changed to LED lights. So if you're looking at 05 and older, not only will you lose 40 horsepower, because this is 275 vvti, you will also have, you know, different type of lights back here. And this is removable. As you can see, I've already done that on this side because I was carrying some cargo this past weekend, and that's why I've got my sheet down here to protect the carpet. But one of the beauties of Landcruisers is that split tailgate. Both models have that, because you know what? You can sit down here, put your ski boots, put your hiking boots, put a nice little spread of food if you're doing some overlanding. It's awesome. Better that than sitting on a dirty bumper, right? So, great model. I love it. These here, yes, they're functional. Close all your doors, and then instead of the recirculating air, you put the air that's coming from outside, and that thing has pressure, has air coming out. It's pretty cool. All right, and let's pop, oh yeah, and one other thing. You see the green tint? That happened in 2000, and I want to say 4, either 2003 or 4. So both these trucks have that kind of greenish tint to it in the glass. Previous models, it was bronze, which does kind of date them. So if you get an early model Landcruiser, you know, 98, 99, 2000, your glass will be brown, will be bronze. And in these models, it is green. So they switched over. I think it's in 2003. I don't know if the camera quite does that, but you see kind of that green tint, even though these windows have tint on them. All right, so then we come to the 200 series. So in 08, they did their big model changeover after 10 years. And believe it or not, 13 years, this chassis, this whole system. A-Track is in the 100 series. And in this one, they have a cool feature they added called KDSS, which ultimately your truck senses when it's off-roading, and it disconnects sway bars so that you get a lot of flex. Your wheel can tuck into the wheel well or droop low when you off-road, which is pretty cool. I have a video showing that as well. If you subscribe, check that one out. I go off-roading with this. And this one has towed me, and this is an important quick subject. If you plan to tow anything, so if you see the green, let me zoom in, the green Landcruiser down there, that's the green machine. I off-road with that. It's got 40-inch tires. Very capable piece of equipment. I love it. Well, this truck, and I call this truck United Nations just because it's white and it's a Landcruiser. It's kind of the go-to for the United Nations. This towed it. So here's what's important to know. Neither truck comes with a, and my tow hitch is behind that cover, whereas it's exposed in the 100 series. So neither comes with a brake controller. And the brake controller is important because you don't want to use just your truck brakes. You want brakes on the actual trailer. And it was important for me to have that because I went up to, boy, 9,500 feet towing that FJ40. So you want to have a brake controller. And you can go get one that's Bluetooth, believe it or not. If I can remember, I'll put it in my description. But I had a Bluetooth. I bought it for 210 bucks from U-Haul, out of all places. I think it's called Cort, C-O-R-T. And that thing was awesome. So towing this 100 series, right, with V8, so V8s are capable, 275. The rating on it is 6,500 pounds. But be careful. Some of the 0607s came with the automatic height control, just like Lexus had. So Landcruiser enthusiasts said, like, hey, how come we don't have it? This one doesn't. It would be right here where you have the automatic height control. So this is conventional springs, shocks, I mean coils. But 6,500, yes, you can pull in this. And then they said 6,500 for the AHC model, but Toyota revised that after a couple years down to 6,000. And the reason being is when you're towing something that's right borderline too heavy, guess what? The truck goes into self-protection mode and AHC drops the truck to the lowest level. And you can't go 60 miles, 70 miles an hour with that lowest level. So if you're gonna tow, stay away from automatic height control, or if you go to the 200 series, it got bumped up to 8,000 pounds. So this can tow more, let's say 1,500 more pounds, which could be the weight of the trailer itself if you're gonna trailer a vehicle. Compared to the 100. I think the trailer I used was 1,500 pounds, and then my Landcruiser over there is about 5,000 pounds. So that put me at 65. So I would have been at borderline with the 100 series, but with the 200, piece of cake, no problem. There was guys with F350s pulling their rigs, and everybody was quite impressed with how the Landcruiser fared. Now the grills, you know, those got to change over. So this is an OEM grill in a 100. This, I did have this painted. So you can see it's plasti dip, so I can get it back with like nice little gold accents that I did, bronze, because those lights aren't faded. That's actually bronze tint. I did it on purpose to match up with the Rock Warrior wheels. So those aftermarket wheels are awesome. So it's a bit of a bigger size, and I put them on BF Goodrich KO2s. So those come out to like closer to like a 33-inch tire versus a 32 point something on the OEM. All right, so let's take a look inside. Obviously AHC, the automatic height control, no longer was an option in the 200 series, but in the Lexus it is. And just like the accents in here, a little bit more than the 100 as far as like darker in the middle versus being, you know, too light everywhere. Of course, a gray interior in the 100 series is beautiful. But if you were ever to find a gray interior in a white 100 series, count yourself lucky. That's the unicorn, gray interior in one of those. Usually it came with that beige. Okay, so back here, you see these are locked in there. They're not quick release like the 100 series, so a little bit more problematic to get those out. But of course you get the beautiful tailgate that pops down, and then they got smart. They put little storage here, so you can put your tool kit. I'm not sure what's on this other side. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. So that's pretty cool. And I believe there's a subwoofer. So I do feel the sound system in the 200 is better. In the 100, chances are you'll have to refoam your subwoofer. Those kind of go. So do the front speakers in an LX or a 100. So might be one of the first things you're going to do when you buy your 100 to get your sound system sounding perfect. You don't need new speakers. You just need to buy, I think it's like 17 bucks. So that's another good tip. And refoam the speaker, because that's what deteriorates. But I find the sound system in this one is quite awesome and almost on par with my wife's LX 570. which is actually that silver one parked out there. I wanted to come into the... So, you know, same creature comforts. As far as technology, yes, you got the push start right there when you come in, so keyless entry. That's a nice feature, of course. But apart from that, touch screen, you know, voice control, pretty similar. And I'll take both these for a drive, so we'll compare them on how they do on the road. Okay, let's pop the trunks, the hoods rather, and we'll take a quick, the bonnets I should say, and take a quick look at the engines. Okay, the LX, not the LX, sorry, the Landcruiser, the 100 series. So right here you see this is where the automatic height control would go, so it's void, but maybe a great place to put a second battery, or just move this box back and put a second battery if you're gonna turn your 100 to a overlander, which lots of people do. But yeah, that's the 2UZ-FE engine. Timing belt, so remember, this is the engine that you got to do your timing belt and water pump every 90,000 miles. That's the major maintenance piece. They did away with the timing belt and went to timing chain in the 200 series. And this engine's clean. And these engines, I mean, some people swear by them. These will go 500,000–600,000 miles when maintained properly. A Landcruiser, their motto, or kind of in the design lab, they say these are to last 25 years without major repair. So remember, timing belt and water pump, it's not a repair, it's a maintenance item. Repair means when, you know, like something fails, well, you don't want to wait for a timing belt, or, you know, water pump can fail. You don't want to wait for a timing belt to fail. You just need to change it. Just like you don't want to wait for your tires to fail and blow out when you're going 80 miles an hour on the highway. You change your tires when they're almost worn. Same thing with the timing belt, and that is gauged to be at about 90,000 miles. So let's go check under the hood on the 200 series. I love these plastic things they put on. It reminds me of like a Halloween costume, like He-Man, or like, you know, muscles that some kid would put on, because you pull that off and, you know, there's an engine. But I guess they put that on there for looks. So obviously as time goes on, yes, there's still, you know, stuff that the do-it-yourselfer can do on these engines, but they try to make things, you know, so you got to bring it into the dealer to get work done. But clean engine bay. But that engine, it's like a Dodge Hemi. You know, Dodge Hemi is 395 horsepower and is touted as like a super powerful engine. Well, guess what? This is 383 and virtually the same torque as a Hemi. But honestly, is a Hemi going to go 500,000 miles? I'd put my money on this one. So one other key cool thing to know is Landcruisers are 100% built in Japan. So this 5.7 isn't the same as the Tundra quite exactly, because it's done in Japan. You know, yeah, okay, it's Toyota Motor Corp, so obviously they train and they try to have a certain standard, but there's something to be said about the Japanese engineering and just the pride and how serious they are when they build an engine. These engines, little secret that a lot of people don't know, when they pour the engine cast, they actually put it through an MRI. And yes, I said an MRI, just like we would have for, you know, your neck, your bones, your knee. And they do that to see if there's any air pockets. And if it doesn't pass their quality control, guess what? Melt it down, start over. So that's one of many reasons of why, like those little details of why these engines last so long. And these are highly sought after trucks. All right, let's close these hoods and tell you what, let's take these things for a drive. Okay, let's take the 100 series for a drive first. All right, you know, between the two cars, you just feel it's just a little bit more refined in the 100, a little tighter. Kind of like if you went back in the day, I bet you, you know, taking inflation into account, the 100, probably more money put into it. This is a little bit more refined. we'll just get rolling. While she's warming up in neutral, it's all downhill to get out of here. Definitely notice in the 200 series, you hear the engine a lot more. The power of the engine. Not a bad thing. I do like to hear a V8. When a V8 purrs nicely, you do hear the 100 a little bit more. You know, when you talk Lexus, I think in the firewall, they have a little bit more dyno mat or whatever they would use on the manufacturing, you know, at the factory, just to make it a little quieter. And we're talking just a few decibels, not a huge difference, but I can notice it. I can notice it when I drive an LX 470 compared to a Landcruiser. All right, we'll just put her through her paces here. And yeah, we're gonna keep seeing that flashing light until I put my seatbelt on, aren't we? All right. Drives so tight. Like, this truck has 160,000 miles. And speaking of which, look what's coming across the other side of the road. A Lexus. We'll let him turn. I know that Lexus. That's a 2002, I think. And I think he's got 300 and something thousand miles on the clock. Lives in my neighborhood. Well, here's a good chance to see the back of the Lexus. As you can tell, it's a little bit different than the Landcruiser. Change the lights, and that one doesn't have a spoiler on it. But all in all, the 4.7 liter, 275 horsepower if you're looking at an 06 or 07. If you're looking at an older, like 98 through 2005, they were 230 horsepower, and then they bumped it 5 to 235, I think, in 2003. Drives great. I mean, it drives like it's new, like right down to the stick shift, not stick shift, but the shifter is tight. It's not loose, it's not plastic feeling, it's just totally solid. All right, let's now give the 200 a roll. Okay, now let's jump in the 200 series and see how it drives. I think we got a special guest sitting shotgun. Yes, sir, it's Chloe. Thanks for joining us, Chloe. Is this your car's pick? Is that why you're in it? So one cool thing about this is push start. The dash, obviously updated, right? The Landcruiser, it's been a while since they had that. And this time, let's get the trusty seatbelt on. So again, nice dash. You know, when they did the big model change from 2007 to 2008. And this one is a 2008. So my tire pressure light is on because I have aftermarket wheels, never put the sensor in. But right away, you know, V8, when you're driving low speeds, they feel the same. It's just when you're, let's say, driving, you know, on a 2-lane highway, you got to pass a big rig. Yeah, the 383 horsepower kicks in, and you notice the difference between that and the 275 in that 100 series. But I'd have to say, you know, this became more mainstream. The 100 and the LX 470. They were a little bit more luxurious. They were just very well built. The A-Track, all of that, great systems. This one has the KDSS. But here, let's just see the acceleration. You can hear the engine. I'll be quiet. Oh, you hear that nice purr. So that's a little bit louder than the 100 series. A little bit more grunt. I love it. I love that sound. But great power. I mean, for sure, if you have a choice between 383 horsepower and 275, guarantee you're always going to want the 280 sorry, the 383, it's just more power. 0 to 60 in this 2008 is actually 7.1 seconds with that 6-speed transmission in the 2008 and 2009 and 2010. When they, in 2013, they did go to an 8-speed transmission, and it actually got slower. So if I was to race a 2020 Landcruiser, I would win, just because of you know, the whole mapping for that transmission. But I do like the color. I'm not a big beige fan, but in both these trucks I like it. I just like that there's a lot of dark with lighter trim versus the 100 series is a lot lighter on the doors. And you know, if you can see, the center console here is brown with that brown wood. Again, in the 200 you're gonna get this like plasticky. It's not quite like the Lexus quality, but it's nice. Obviously this has stood the test of time. The 100 series is going to be all leather. So I love them both for different reasons. Both great. Okay, back from both drives, and you know, again, when you're cruising 80 miles an hour, both are going to cruise beautifully on the highway, even when they got 300,000 miles on the clock. When you got to pass that big rig, they'll both get the job done, but you can definitely do it with a little bit more confidence with that extra, you know, just over 100 horsepower with the 200 series. And believe it or not, like I said at the beginning, price point is very similar. So not if you're talking an 03 and 04 that'll have less horsepower in the 100 series, you know, maybe they're in the mid, you know, 15, 16, 14,000, depending on miles. Obviously chances are they'll have more miles because they've been out there longer. But an 06, 07, you know, below 200,000 miles, you're looking at 20 grand or low 20s. And on the 200, with, again, just over 200,000 miles in an 08 or 09, they're pretty low. Now, since pandemic times and all, people started realizing off-roading and what these vehicles are capable of. You can get the whole family going with you. So people understand what these trucks can do, and the value is going up because of that, because of the overlanding. And if you think about it, you know, there's more competition with SUVs, but back when there was competition, like in, let's say, early 2000s, like 98, 99, and 2001, they were making like 14,000 a year of this. And guess what? By the end, they were making 3,000 in 06 and 07. That's why those are highly sought after. There's only about 7,000 of the 06, 07s with that 275 vvti. And then in 2008, when they came up with this new model, well, same thing for the Lexus, so they were competing. And based on the price point, people probably went Lexus, a lot of people did, because they would lease them, like doctors, chiropractors, white collar, versus Landcruisers, people buy and keep them. So the average owner on a Landcruiser owns it for 10 years or more. So that's why they're hard to find, and they're getting harder because they got to a price point where all the off-roaders, overlanders are starting to snatch them up that didn't want to shell out 70, 80 grand when these things were new, are buying them up at 20, which means it's kind of creating a bottom of the market, and now it's starting to rise back up. So, and again, this, if anybody tries to do this, by the way, they sell this plate for, I think you can get 2 of them from the dealer for like $300 each, $250 each. They're $500 for 2. So here's the trick. Don't buy the one from the dealer that's already flat. Buy the one that goes on an FJ40, but guess what? You're gonna have 2 metal tabs, right, that screw in, that go into the body of the FJ40. Get a Dremel, shave them off, and then put 3M double-sided earthquake, like kind of smushy tape, and then problem solved. So I paid for 2 of these, and I painted them black. I paid, I think, like $60 versus $500, and it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing, just one has knobs on it that would prohibit you from gluing it on. You just got to shave them off. And then I do tint my lights So I think that gave a better look because these are really bright red. And yes, also did the black badging with Plasti Dip. Like I said, subscribe. I show some of these things. So this is the original red. I just didn't finish this light. I ran out of tint. But as you can see, bright red look or tinted look. I definitely like the tinted look. It just brings everything, I don't know, makes it cool. All right, so in summary, you cannot go wrong with either one of these. It's not like if you're in the used market, obviously, it's not like you're buying it and you're gonna take a 50% bath over, you know, X amount of years. If anything, these will hold value and even go up. So it's the perfect time to buy a Landcruiser. I love them both. Yes, the 570 has more power, but the 100 has a little bit more refinement. You know, again, when they re-engineered the 200, they changed, you know, the length, the wheel distance. It was a 110, and I think they went 112 on the 200. Don't quote me on that, but it was 110. And you do a U-turn in one of these, well, maybe not the 200, the 100, you do a U-turn, oh my god, the capability is crazy. You turn on a dime for a big SUV. So easy for the wife to, you know, maneuver in the mall parking lot, in other words. Not intimidating like a big Escalade. All right, well, there you have it. So again, please subscribe and like it if this helped you. If you have questions, just put it in the comments. I'll answer them. And just real quick, let's check the LX. You know, because some people might be in the market, you know, do I get an LX 570 or do I get a 200? So believe it or not, I do a comparison of the two. I did that many months ago with this one. So check that out. If you're gonna do some serious off-roading, you know, the 200 might give you more approach angle compared to the LX 570. And then last but not least, I even compare these two because that red one has the original inline six the F155 engine. So the first engine, which is about 125 horsepower, and then this one is very modified with 40-inch tires. I call it the Green Machine, and it has a Chevy Vortec 300 horsepower engine, which is needed to turn those big 40-inch tires, which weigh a ton. These are 35s. So believe it or not, this red truck is super tall, which means that green one is even taller. It just doesn't look like it because it's parked down the street. All right, well, subscribe, check out the other Landcruiser comparison videos. I appreciate you taking the time to view this video. I hope I was helpful and informative, and whatever I might have missed out on discussing, just hit the comments. If there's a video you'd like to see me do on Landcruisers, hey man, just ask. I will probably do it. All right, thanks for tuning in.